A side, B side. What side are you on?
What's going on, Adam? It's another episode of A Side B Side Podcast. How's you going? How are you
How's you?
doing?
How's you going? I feel like I'm going okay.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we are getting into the dog days of summer. Like it's just hot all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why this year it feels so much hotter, but maybe I've just completely matured into old guy where like all I could do is complain about the weather.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so tired. Like yesterday, I literally was working during the day. I laid down for what was supposed to be a 10-minute nap, woke up 2.5 hours later with like all of these missed texts and calls because I'd planned to meet people and was just asleep. And my only excuse was I sat down on my couch and it was very comfortable.
It happens though. I mean, it's especially now. Okay, so funny. Speaking of the hot weather,
Yeah.
TikTok got me
Uh-oh.
because like now TikTok has the ads, and like this ad for this Lumi deodorant. Did I tell you this already?
No, I don't remember it at least. So maybe you did, but
so there's this ad for like Lumi deodorant created by a gynecologist or whatever, like whatever. It's supposed to.
Is that a good thing? Wait, hold on.
She's a female, so she's like, because it's like a natural deodorant, but you can use it anywhere.
But I think there's a lot of crossover between like gynecology and
because you
design.
can use it. You can use it in your pits. You can use it on your privates. You can use it like under boob. Like you can use it on your feet. So I think that's where it comes in, like especially the private part. Like you have to have a product that you can use under your pits, and at the same time is safe enough to use in very sensitive areas.
Which is weird because now I'm getting served with all of the Sasquatch soaps where their entire like branding is like, you shouldn't have one soap for everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, I shouldn't?
Not one soap, but one deodorant, apparently.
Evidently. Oh, okay.
But I like the natural because I don't want the aluminum. I don't want to take any risks, because they say that it can contribute to like different cancers and things like that. So I've been natural for years. So it's not like you're going to be around me and be like, oh, you stink or whatever.
Yeah, there's a big difference between natural and stank.
Yes.
I mean, people figure out what works for them. And I mean, nobody wants to be the smelly kid.
Right. So I did. I got the I got the Lumi. I ended up getting the sampler pack because there's several different scents. And I was impressed. So I was using, they got me before, TikTok got me before, Tabitha Brown. I think I told you that each and every. Mm-hmm. So I've been using that and I really liked it. But this Lumi, man, this stuff is, you only use like a pea size amount and it's good. It's really good. So there's my TikTok ad sponsor of the week.
Are we sponsored now? That'd be great if we were.
Yeah, I wish. Lumi, feel free to sponsor us.
It's an option. Hey, also, Angelina Jolie, if you'd like me to stop pretending that I know you, then just send us some money. We'll be fine.
Oh, what have you been doing this week?
I have been working. Mm-hmm. I have been sweating. I have been reading as much as possible. I am transitioning from a life of 20 hours at one job and 20 hours at another to 40 hours at one job and 0 at another because one of the jobs is closing for 3.5 months. But during this sort of weird transition period, somehow I'm ending up working like 40 at one and 20 at the other, which is a lot of hours. And I'm very lucky. I'm not complaining. I'm very lucky to have the option to work. Mm-hmm. And I'm lucky that I get to kind of pick my hours, which definitely works with the fact that like I sleep like crap and I have a weird schedule and I'm up at like 3 a.m. and sometimes I do my best work at 3 a.m. But that's not like, you can't go into the office at 3 a.m. Like no one's really going to give you credit for that. So I'm very lucky, but I'm also really tired. And that's probably why I fell asleep on the couch last night.
Probably.
Probably. Other than the fact that I have a really comfortable couch. But I specifically bought a couch that is not long enough for me to lay on.
So that you wouldn't sleep on it all the
So
time?
I couldn't, yeah, because I spent much of my life in an unsuccessful marriage and then as a divorcee sleeping on couches.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to do that anymore. So I was like, but I got so used to it. Like I even after we split up, my bed was a futon.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just a couch. And so for like 3 consecutive years, I just slept on a couch, which is ironic and kind of funny in terms of like a sitcom thing. But it was hard to transition back to a bed.
Maybe maybe somewhere inside you're like, I'm still just going to stick with the couch.
Yeah, well, I like you got the back. It's very like, there's almost like a crib nature to it. You feel protected from 3 sides.
Mm-hmm.
You can like lean up against the back. Like I was a kid, like, I don't know how you set up your bed in your bedroom when you're a kid, but I always had my bed against a wall. Yeah. So I could roll and then have my back to the wall. So I know if the stuff was coming, it's only coming from that direction.
Right. It's
not coming at me. Like I can't sleep in a place where like my bed is free on 3 sides because I don't know where the bad guys are coming from. Which is a weird thing that exists in my brain, but it's a thing. So I specifically bought a couch that I couldn't sleep on because I cannot stretch out on it, but somehow I still find a way to sleep on it occasionally.
Okay.
It's just a really comfy couch. I love my couch.
It's funny because I did used to sleep with my back to the wall as a child, but as an adult, I have not, or I think since I was a teen, my bed's been in the middle of the wall.
So people can get you at any side.
At any side.
You gotta be ready. Yeah. I just think that means it's, as an adult, you feel more ambidextrous in your defense.
Yeah, I have more chances to flee from the bad guy.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you go right, you go left. You know, that's good to learn after time.
Oh man. I have been staying busy because, as you know, my youngest lives with me and she's off right now for a while, visiting.
And this is the longest you two have been apart
in a very long time, in like
2 years.
Yeah. And so we both, like when I dropped her off last week, we're both like, and then, I dropped her off and I'm like, okay, I'm going to miss you. Cry. And then I went to a concert. I told you.
Yeah.
And then
you got kicked out of the VIP section because you weren't VIP, even though you got invited in.
If you want that whole story, we have a Patreon. You can get that whole story on our Patreon. It's a
fun story.
It's a very fun story. And then Thursday, we recorded, and so I was busy. That kept me busy, and then I went and hung out with my neighbor for a bit. Friday, Patton Oswalt came to town, so I went to that show.
And you guys are tight because he's retweeted your stuff before.
I know. I'm so excited. He even he liked my comment about going to his show and stuff like that. So pretty cool.
Kind of a big deal.
Kind of, and then there's a couple of different speakeasy type places here in town. So I went to one of those Friday night.
Okay.
Saturday.
Is it like you got to knock on the door and have a password speakeasy?
There is one where you have to knock on the door. No, it looks like you walk into a phone booth and you pick up the phone. You have to give them the keyword or the password. I said the password, which you have to get off of Facebook.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
There's another one where based on whether the light is red or green, they'll allow you in. You have to knock on the door. And then the other one, you just go in,
Do you know how hard it would be for me not to sing Roxanne when I walked into that place?
Roxanne. Okay.
You don't have to turn on the red light.
Please don't, because that means I can't come in.
Because I would like to come inside.
Saturday, I binged Umbrella Academy, which is great. New season is great. And of course, Elliot Page is in Umbrella Academy. And I was really wondering how the show, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I was wondering how the show was going to handle his transition, because he transitioned in between seasons, or right after the season ended, he transitioned and then there was some time off and then they filmed again. So I was wondering, how are they going to handle his transition?
they've embraced it, right?
Very much so.
Okay.
I won't spoil it because I thought it was very cool. But yes, they've embraced it. And then what did I do? Sunday, went to the movies. Monday, I went and hung out by the pool outside my complex. Tuesday was $5 movie nights. So I went to see a movie again. So Sunday I saw Top Gun Maverick. Amazing, by the way.
I've heard really good things. I think it's going to be a at home like streaming for me. Because I'm not ready to commit to spending money on it. I am
not the biggest Tom Cruise fan at all, but so many people kept saying it. And I was like, well, let me just see it before it leaves the theaters. I don't want to be like at home going, dang, I should have seen it in theaters. And I'm very glad I saw it because, of course, the scenes with like the airplanes and stuff, like amazing.
Yeah, no, I even saw like I think you posted either a tweet or something on Facebook or Instagram about how you were like considering if you could like re-enlist after the movie.
Yeah, I was like, can I use my prior service time to re-enlist into the Air Force and become a pilot because I got the need for speed now. And then
do they use that line, right?
No,
they don't say that line.
No, they didn't.
What, like it's a Terminator movie without saying "I'll be back"? Come
on. And then yesterday's movie I saw was Black Phone. Have you seen the previews for that?
That's the one with Kevin Bacon where he's like a scary dude.
No, it's Ethan Hawke.
Oh, Ethan Hawke.
Yeah,
mid 90s white guy, my bad.
Right. And I was like, well, he played such a good bad guy in Moon Knight.
But that was like there were layers to that bad guy. Like True. This appears to be just like a slasher sort of like horror movie.
It is, but there's more to it because it's a Blumhouse. So Blumhouse always has some layers to it as well.
Yeah, they're like an onion. There's gonna be some stuff going on.
So I really enjoyed that. And then there's also the Jazz in June here on Tuesdays. Yesterday was the last one. So it was like timing wise, I was like, oh, maybe I'll go to a movie. And then I was like, well, maybe not. But it worked out perfect because the movie was at 5 and then Jazz at June was at 7. So I had the perfect amount of time and they're literally a block away from each other.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And then
serendipity, as they say.
Yeah. So I have successfully killed a week. I thought it was really funny today. My boss came, I was talking to another coworker and like the big boss lady, she came up to me and she goes, so how are you doing?
Because it's well known that this is you've been a little concerned about this.
Yes. And like I think it's funny how everyone like knows how attached at the hip we are, because she actually was so concerned about my daughter like not being happy here that she thought I was going to run off like in the middle of the night and just say, forget Lincoln. So she's like, how are you?
Well, there was a very short period of time where you weren't sure she was going to come with you.
Yes.
And that was emotional and big. And I think more maybe than anything from an outsider's perspective, something that I thought may stop you from taking this opportunity.
But when I finally said it and she was like, so when are we moving? I was like, well, all right.
Yeah. And it's been good. You guys like have both enjoyed it there. You found your spots, you know, like you're making friends. It hasn't even been a year yet. And you've made some really good inroads, I think.
Yeah.
Again, from an outsider's perspective who lives 8 hours away. So what do I really know?
But yeah, there's that. So, yeah, I was going to say that's all, but that was kind of a lot.
That was, I don't know, that's all. Like, that's a lot. Like, literally, I'm a little concerned for your social structure and your bank account because she's not going to be back for another like 3-4 weeks.
Well, fortunately, the Jazz in June was free.
You
$5 movies. No, $5 movies on Tuesdays, you know. So I have the pool is free. So I've been doing things that are not either free or inexpensive.
But like there is like this weird correlation. Like usually like you can figure out, and we've all gone through this where we're on Facebook or Instagram, and we know that one friend from high school who all of a sudden is posting like workout selfies and like vacation selfies, and you're like, oh, somebody just got dumped, or went through a divorce and is like working on themselves. So at some point though, you don't want to burn yourself out.
True. So the last season of Peaky Blinders is out, so I know I will sit around and watch that. And then like you said, this week the new Stranger Things. So
Stranger Things comes out this week. We've got the new Only Murders in the Building.
Only Murders in the Building. Yeah.
Came out like today, I think.
That was such a quick turnaround, I feel like, for them.
I don't even know how they filmed that. Like, there was like, I'm so used to like maybe a year in between stuff, or like something like Lost in Space, which took like 7 years to do 3 seasons.
Yeah, I was here when I swear I was here when I watched Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah,
I haven't.
We talked about it last fall.
That's what
we talked about it last fall. It came out like last fall, and I'm like, all of a sudden we're on season 2 already.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining because it's good, but
I mean, Steve Martin Short, like, we just need to get paid, guys. Let's do another one.
We don't have long, so we gotta hurry.
we're on like a limited schedule here. The new Miss Marvel is out. I've been watching Miss Marvel, which I've really enjoyed. I was not convinced going in. I wasn't excited about it. It wasn't a character I knew anything about. But the lead actress is so good. And like, you just root for her. And it definitely, she has sort of that same energy and ability to draw you in that Tom Holland.
Oh, okay.
Like that is the most, like, I wasn't convinced about Spider-Man that he showed up, and I was like, okay, I like this kid. Like, yeah, wow. Definitely. And it's that same vibe where like I was like, okay, what is this series going to be about? And she does such a good job of drawing you in that by the end of the first episode, I'm like, bleepity bleep, I'm in. Okay, fine. This is going to be really good. And it's been great. I finally worked my way through all of Obi-Wan. I'm conflicted. I am very excited for Skywalker saga Star Wars again. That's what I think made The Mandalorian so good. That's what made Rogue One so good. And I'm super excited about Andor, which is going to be like the prequel to Rogue One. There's so many opportunities within this universe that we don't have to keep telling versions of the same story or adding layers to it. I think it was a well-written series. I enjoyed it. It will not be one that I probably go back and rewatch.
Oh, wow.
We've talked about this. Like, I wanted it to be about Obi-Wan, like, off and doing stuff in like the unknown period, right? Like, it's basically like what happened between the Old Testament and the New Testament. We don't know. This could have been like that, where it was just filling in the gaps. And instead they made it all about Luke and Leia and the Vader. And it's like, I get why you had to do that, but isn't there more to the character than simply interacting with the Skywalker family?
Right.
Like, wouldn't it be cool to see Obi-Wan like just in the wilderness doing Jedi stuff and helping people and like living off the grid? And they kind of did that for a little bit. They all made it about the Skywalker family, and it's just like, come on, guys. Like, it doesn't all have to be about them. We've proven that it works with Mandalorian. We've proven that it works with Rogue One. Like, you have this gigantic universe of possibilities, and you keep going back to the same 3 planets. So I thought it was very well done. It was enjoyable. I'm the last Star Wars fan on earth that says this, but I don't need to see more Darth Vader stories. I don't. Like, I get it. He's got 7 movies, 9 movies. Okay. Give me something new.
Dang, he's got that many?
Well, I mean, the whole original trilogy was basically about him as the bad guy. The prequel trilogy was about him as a kid. And then the extra trilogy is like dealing with the aftermaths of him dying. Like, seriously, give me something else.
Wow.
Yeah. I am cautiously optimistic about Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie.
I love Taika. Oh my gosh.
Now, like, he's amazing. And he made a joke which everyone thinks is a joke, but I kind of want it to be real.
Knowing Taika, he probably is making you think it's a joke until it happens.
Like, he's the only one that could make it work. Somebody jokingly asked what his Star Wars movie was going to be about. And he's like, well, I think it'd be really interesting to take everyone's most hated character and redeem them. So it's a movie about Jar Jar Binks.
I think I remember that. I do remember that. Yeah.
I was like, that's brilliant. Like, this is the only person on earth. He made a movie about Hitler as an imaginary best friend, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
That movie was brilliant and heartbreaking, and like, I cried, and somehow he made it work.
And the funny thing is, he did it, and like you said, it was brilliant and heartbreaking and beautiful, but he never made you sympathize for Hitler.
No, but Hitler was a main character in the play as a little boy's imaginary friend, which is an absurd idea.
Right. But you never were like, so brilliant. Hitler was a good. No, like, it's the exact opposite. Like, he still showed how freaking terrible Hitler was, but still had him be this best friend, this imaginary best friend to this little boy.
Because a young boy in Germany who's been inundated with propaganda probably thinks that Hitler is his best friend. And it was so absurd, but it was so good. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is incredible. And now I'm going to be a little disappointed if he doesn't make a Jar Jar Binks movie. I think Ahmad Best, who is the actor who has been vilified for 20 years because someone gave him a crap script and he did his best dealing with it. Bring him back. Let him have his redemption, because that's not fair. Mm-hmm. People have been mean to that guy forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think Waititi's the only one who could do it. So I'm very curious. Like, we all think it's a joke, but that's he's the kind of filmmaker who literally probably looked at Lucasfilm and said, like, hey, Disney, I will do this, but I'm gonna do it my way.
Right.
Because he made, like, after Thor: The Dark World, nobody liked Thor movies. Nobody liked the Thor character. We're like, meh. And then Ragnarok comes around and he brings in the Guardians of the Galaxy, and now he just reinvigorated the entire character and also allowed for this incredible story arc that, like, Iron Man really didn't get the story arc as good. His story was not as interesting. Like, it got better, like, with the family and everything at the end, and like, but Thor has been through some stuff.
Oh my gosh. And you're thinking, spoiled, God Prince, whatever.
Oh yeah. He was honestly a jerk in the first two movies and in the first Avengers. Like, we all like him because Chris Hemsworth is just seemingly a likable dude.
Mm-hmm.
But also we're like, Thor's kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
And by the end of Endgame, like, he's had the best character arc out of anybody, of the ups, the downs, and learning about himself and changing. And like, I am so jealous of, like, I also feel like the other, like, somebody like Mark Ruffalo, who has been given a little bit to do as the Hulk, but never been given a Hulk movie.
No, he had a little bit in the Thor movie, but never his own. Yeah. But I think it's because, and I don't know, I don't know if it's because they've tried so many times and it's just not worked.
Yeah, I mean, they did have two, like, Hulk movies that didn't really work. So maybe they're like, maybe he can't carry his own film. But it's also like, well, maybe he just had the wrong director, right? And the wrong bad guys.
Yeah,
he's a great supporting character, but as an actor, I would feel like Mark Ruffalo would be like, yeah, I would love the opportunity to have Thor's, like, arc. They're trying to do it with Strange, I've rewatched. Yeah, I don't know. It's I love Benedict Cumberbatch as an actor. Sherlock, I think, is to this day one of my favorite. That first and second season of those 6 movies that came out were so well done, and he's amazing. I even like him as Khan in Star Trek Beyond, which nobody else did because it was like, oh well, you can't redo Khan. I was like, yeah, but they did it in a different way, and it still works, and he's still good.
Yeah,
and he's got so many other movies where he's really good, but it seems like Doctor Strange is just like, how can I love this guy as a mass murdering like superhuman in Star Trek Beyond and then just feel meh about him as the world's most powerful wizard?
Seriously, because it really is meh.
Like,
and it's not anything he's done, because he's I mean, I'm not like you. I'm not a huge Benedict Cumberbatch fan. He's a very talented actor.
Yeah,
and he does excellent. Like Sherlock is amazing. Star Trek, I love Star Trek, but man,
I feel like the character is just, it's too powerful, or it's like, I don't like, I was never a Doctor Strange guy from the comics. It's like, whatever, wizards, cool. I was not my bag, but it feels like, honestly, I'm watching that movie as I did last night, and I'm rooting for the Scarlet Witch, which is so messed up because she's clearly super evil. But like, she has a better rationale for her actions than he does. What is he doing? Just reacting to her actions. She's trying to get her family back. I was like, yeah, I honestly watched the entire movie. If I'm rooting for the bad guy, to me, that means that, one, they picked the wrong character to make this movie about, and two, they wrote the hero's role poorly.
Yeah.
And I really hope that Elizabeth Olsen comes back as the Scarlet Witch in something. Like, they kind of gave, like, you don't see the body. They did the castle, spoiler alert, they did the castle crashing down on her and stuff. It would seem like this was the end, but gosh, she's so good in that role, and so much more interesting than Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it would have made more sense for him to go crazy and her to stop him.
Oh, real quick. Have you seen, because this is a big deal, have you seen the trailer for Hocus Pocus 2?
I have. I am very excited, which is ironic because I didn't even see the movie until like 5 years ago.
What?
Yeah, it was not. It was kind of like this weird donut hole. Like, it came out when I wasn't really paying attention, and it was not something that my friend group was into. And so I did not watch it until my entire team at a former job for Halloween was doing a costume. So we did, as a team, the entire cast of Hocus Pocus.
Okay.
And I need to send you the picture so we can put it up on the website, because some of our team members just absolutely killed it. They were so good. Their costumes were amazing. I was just like the virgin boy, so I just had a tie-dyed shirt. and like the mid 90s hair part, like I was Devon Sawa or something, or Jonathan Taylor Thomas. So my costume was super easy, but I did not watch it until we were doing that, because like, I'm curious about what this is about. I was like, man, this movie is way better than I expected. So yeah. I'm very excited everyone's coming back. I think it will be. Is it going to be direct? Is it going to be theaters, or are they just doing?
Nope, direct to Disney.
Yeah, I mean, and I get that. Disney has spent so much money that they have to have stuff like that to drive subscribers. So I think it's a great idea. I'm glad everybody's coming back. It's good to see all three of those women get work, and that Hollywood is so messed up that like as soon as you hit like 45, you just cannot get a job if you're a woman. Because there's no logical reason that Kathy from Kathy Najimy has not been in more stuff, because she's amazing. And Sarah Jessica Parker's, maybe she doesn't want to work. I mean, she's got all the
she just had the HBO
City money. They just rebooted it, or continued it. And then Bette Midler, my God, like how is she not in more stuff? Like maybe it's they don't want to, like maybe they don't need the money, they're not interested in working, they've got their own lives going on, but like they're all so talented, and it feels weird that it has to be a reboot or a sequel to like a 20-year-old Disney movie.
If it's as good as Top Gun Maverick, because they took all these years for Top Gun and Maverick, and if it's as good as that, which it better be because it's Disney and they have the resources, I'm going to be
they've got the power.
They have got the power. I'm going to be so pumped. So pumped.
I think it'll be number one clearly in, on their streaming platform. And that's the weird thing is like we don't really have a way to measure success with these streaming platforms. Like we know like box office receipts, but I wonder how many times like a movie that has been considered a box office failure, if it had been released on a streaming platform, would have found its audience and people would have loved it, and it never would have had to have the counting stats against it that people look at and say, oh, well, it cost 130 million and only made 110, so it's a failure.
Right.
Which I'm totally foreshadowing my section today. That's fine.
All right. So can you believe this is 99? We are 1 week away from 100 episodes.
I was a big fan of Agent 99, whether it was in the original Get Smart or Anne Hathaway in the movie, which is also underrated, considered a plot, but a pretty great movie.
Super excited about this. All right. So are you ready for episode 99?
I am. I don't know who starts.
I do.
You start because it's an odd number. See?
Yes.
Only takes me 99 times to figure it out. I got 99 episodes and I can't figure out who goes first.
You got 99 problems because you can't remember who goes first.
Yeah, but I'm always ready just in case.
All right. So this week we're going back to Baton Rouge. We were there on episode 94. So just about 5 episodes ago, not about 5 episodes ago. And we are headed back to Baton Rouge, where is that a Garth Brooks song? Back to Baton Rouge?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I feel like it is. Yes, Baton Rouge. Yeah, absolutely is I thought you were quoting Garth Brooks because call him Baton Rouge. Yeah.
Gotta send my love down to Baton Rouge, not back to Baton Rouge. But okay,
well,
I'll give you that. I
was impressed. I was like, wow, this is like a deep country track because you're all country now.
So if you missed out on Sean Gillis, who was operating in Baton Rouge, again, check out episode 94. This week we are talking.
That was the one where there were like multiple serial killers operating in that part of Louisiana at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like that's got to be death on their tourism.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, no pun intended.
So this week we're talking about Derek Lee Todd, aka the Baton Rouge serial killer, unlike Sean Vincent Gillis, who's not quite earned the title of the Baton Rouge killer. He was like, he's one of, but not
one of, but like not as, yeah. Oh, this is actually the other guy at the same time, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna stop speaking. Hey, Adam, would you like to spoil the entire B-side? Oh, sure. Why not? I'll just keep running my mouth.
So, let's see. So he was born November 5th of 1968 in St. Francisville. He was the second of 4. His parents were Samuel Ruth and Florence Lee. His father suffered from mental illness, and he actually left the family. He ended up in an institution after an attempt on Florence's life. Florence later married a man named Coleman Barrow. Derek had an abusive stepfather, this Coleman Barrow. His mother allegedly knew of the abuse, but she never really intervened. Derek was in special ed classes and he was bullied by classmates, and he was called all kinds of awful names. And by the time he was 11, he was actually caught peeping. When he was 13, on November 8th of 1981, he was arrested for burglary and vandalization of a candy store. And on the very same day, he assaulted a woman in front of his mother. He was also known to torture dogs and cats.
Which we've learned is kind of one of those signs.
But I kind of think, yes, that is one of the signs. But I kind of think assaulting a woman in front of your mother is worse. Like, like that's an even bigger sign.
Well, yeah. That's like a very clear sign. There's not like, well, we might be worried about this kid. That's like, we should worry about this kid.
So you've been caught peeping, you're hurting animals, and now you're assaulting people. Yeah, we really need to worry about you.
Yeah, this is going to be a problem.
On August 8th of 1984, he was almost 16 years old, and he was arrested as a murder suspect. I should go back just a little bit. When he was still in school, his IQ was deemed to be like 70 to 75. 70 or below is considered low IQ. Average is 100. 140 is genius.
Okay. I mean, I believe we've had recent elected officials with roughly the same
IQ. Oh my gosh. So he was arrested when he was almost 16 on August 8th of 1984 as a murder suspect. He was released.
So 84.
84.
Like way back when.
Uh-huh. His legal troubles, they don't end. Derek sets his own car on fire to collect insurance money, but the plan didn't work. On July 2nd of 88, he's arrested for attempted robbery, but the charges were reduced and he was then released. Also in 1988, he took time away from his criminal endeavors so he could get married to Jackie Denise Sims on August 17th in Solitude, Louisiana. Well, abuse seems to run in a cycle. So he had an abusive stepfather, and it seems that Derek was abusive toward Jacqueline and even threatened her father with a weapon. The couple had 3 children, a boy, Derek Lee Todd Jr., a daughter, Doris, in 1992, and a son, Dedrick Lee, in 1999. It seems married life took a toll on Derek as, well, he began killing. That was complete sarcasm, of course, because, well,
he'd already been accused of trying to kill somebody well before he got married, so clearly it wasn't the marriage that pushed him to it.
So his first proven victim is Randy Brewer. She was 28 years old. Unfortunately, Randy's body has never been located, and this was in 1998. In January of 2000, Derek had a girlfriend. Yes, Derek is still married. He beat up his girlfriend and threatened her life. Her name is Cassandra Green. In February of 2000, Cassandra starts proceedings to get a protective order against Derek. He attacks her 3 days later. She presses charges, and Lee, who was on probation at the time, has his probation revoked. He spent a year in prison and was released in February of 2001. It cannot be directly linked to him, but he's a prime suspect in the death of Connie Warner, who was bludgeoned to death in Zachary, Louisiana on August 23rd of 1992. So we continue. September 24th of 2001, Gina Green was his next victim. She was raped. She was strangled. January 14th of 2022, Geraldine Barr DeSoto was found dead in her home. So Geraldine, she was found dead in her home in Addis. She had been stabbed multiple times. Her husband was initially a prime suspect in her murder, but as the investigation progressed, DNA actually linked Derek to the crime. So then we have, my goodness, Diane Alexander on July 9th of 2002. So Derek Lee enters her home and he beats her severely and he attempts to rape her. Diane Alexander is the only known survivor of Derek Lee Todd. And she survived solely because her son walked in while Derek Lee was committing this crime and he frightened him out of the house. He actually not only frightened him out of the house, he chased him through the house, the back of the house, and Derek Lee is able to get out of the house and get into his car. And Diane's son is able to get a description of Derek Lee's car. He also had details as to what Derek Lee looks like. So keep that in mind.
Takes a lot of guts.
Yeah.
Good on him.
So hold that information in your head, okay? So he's got this description. He's given the description of the car. So then we've got sometime between July 12th and July 16th, Pamela Piglia Kenmore was raped and beaten, and unfortunately her throat was slashed. Oh. November 21st of 2002, Teramisha Denise Cole was raped and beaten with a tree branch. Then I guess he took some time off for the holidays, you know, Thanksgiving,
as you do,
Christmas, New Year. Right.
Yeah. He's got a family. He's got he's
got to play Santa Claus in between murder.
Yeah.
On March 3rd of 2000, Carrie Lynn Yoder was raped, beaten, and suffocated. So now remember, we had Diane Alexander's son who chased him through the house and was able to identify him. Between police sketches and some DNA evidence that was gathered off of his victims, a psychological profile was made by Mary Ellen O'Toole, who was a senior profiler with the FBI. She spent the entirety of her career studying criminals.
That's a weird job.
I mean, somebody's got to do it. It's like
I'm glad they do.
An FBI profiler.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad they do, but it's just that's got to be weird. Be like, you're at a dinner party. Somebody's like, "Oh, what do you do?" Well, it's like, "Oh, well, I'm a
criminal profiler."
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? They probably can't get away from people at parties, to be honest.
Oh yeah, especially now. Everyone's like, "Oh, tell me your worst story." It's like,
right,
guys, I'm just here to have like little sausages wrapped in a croissant and maybe like a salad.
A little jam on the side.
I don't want to bring like work home. Right. I don't want to bring work to the potluck. That's weird. Like right. I'm not asking you how sales went today.
So between this criminal profile from Mary Ellen and the police sketch that they put together based on Diane's son, they go public with the information. So police in a nearby town of Zachary, Louisiana, actually recognized Derek Lee Todd from a recent peeping incident that they had just investigated. So the police in Zachary, Louisiana, called the police in Baton Rouge and say, hey, we got your name. This is who you're looking for.
Yeah, we got the guy. He's right over here.
Yeah.
This is like the meme where like the one guy on TV is like showing the mugshot and looks just like him.
Right. So police in Zachary also tell the Baton Rouge Police Department that they have a DNA sample due to a prior murder investigation from months earlier. So the DNA lab runs the samples, the compared samples, and they are a match.
So we got some actual evidence now.
Yes. We've got a match, we've got actual evidence. So now remember Diane Alexander, she gave the description, right?
Yeah, she was the one whose son chased him off.
Right. And so she gave the description to the police, and then that description was what helped police recognize him, blah, blah, blah. So she felt like, hey, I'm the one that helped you, so I should be able to benefit from the Lafayette Crime Stoppers reward of $100,000 for information that led to the arrest of Derek Lee Todd. Mm. So around August 14th of 2003, she contacts Lafayette Crime Stoppers and she is like, hey, can I get, this reward? Lafayette Crime Stoppers then tells her, no, sorry, you can't.
What was her reasoning there?
They just told her she wasn't eligible to receive the reward. So she hires.
I'm sorry, you're too close to the case. You were a victim, so
right.
Obviously, you can't get the reward.
If anybody deserves it, I mean, heck, she survived this dude. Like, give her the dang money.
I wonder how often. Like, I don't know. This is just the pessimistic old dude part of me who's like, we hear about these rewards all the time. How many of those actually get paid out?
If it leads to an arrest, they say it does pay out. I don't know. So on February 22nd of 2006, Diane Alexander hires an attorney by the name of Clayton Burgess because she's like, I truly feel like I am due this reward money.
Yeah, without my description, we would not have gotten this guy. That's better than a tip. It
Well,
wasn't like, hey, I saw a guy that looks like this. It's like, hey, this is the guy. Here's what he looks like.
they claim that as of August 1st, now she contacted them on August 14th of 2003. But when she gets this attorney, they say that, well, as of August 1st, it was expired. The offer expired.
Oh, that's right. There was a statute of limitations on the reward money.
And they also say that she didn't use the tipster hotline. Therefore, she didn't comply with the quote form, terms, and conditions that are required use by the Lafayette Crime Stoppers to be eligible.
This is why I think this stuff never gets paid out. Because I was like, oh, well, you called from a phone that has buttons. And we were specifically said you must call from landline. So sorry, no money for you.
She does lose the case. Unfortunately, she loses the case. Remember we had talked about one of his victims, Geraldine DeSoto, whose husband was initially a prime suspect in the case. Well, okay. Derek Lee Todd is arrested, and he was eligible for first-degree murder charges in the murder of Geraldine DeSoto. The district attorney instead decided to try him for second-degree murder because Geraldine had not been sexually assaulted, which meant a first-degree murder conviction would be harder to achieve. So he decided to go for a second degree, even though it was eligible for a first degree.
That's one of the weirdest things about the legal system is sometimes you have to like look at the case and say, what can I prove and what can't I? And then like, I'm going to go for like lesser charge because it's easier to prove. And everyone else is like, the audience is like, or the, citizens, the people, the public are like, wait a second. Like this guy clearly killed this person. Why are we only going?
But it wasn't the fact that he killed her. It was the fact that he didn't sexually assault her.
Oh, okay.
So there was a bit of discussion about whether Derek Lee Todd was competent enough to stand trial, because remember earlier we talked about how he had a very low IQ. His IQ was only 70. So he was ordered to undergo some psychiatric evaluation, and he scored 65 on some, like the standardized IQ. So of course they were trying to deem him fit to stand a trial, despite the fact that his IQ was so low, because they were going to try to say, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing, which he did. He was determined fit to stand trial. On October 14th of 2004, Derek Lee Todd was convicted for the May 31st rape and murder of LSU graduate student Charlotte Marie Pace. He was sentenced to death via lethal injection. On January 16th, the Supreme Court, January 16th of 2008, the Supreme Court upheld the murder conviction because he was, of course, he appealed it. And they upheld,
as you do.
They upheld the conviction and the death sentence, and he was placed on death row in Louisiana State Prison in Angola. Now, do you remember the show America's Most Wanted?
Oh, yeah.
He was actually featured on America's Most Wanted, and John Walsh said that he was number 3 in the top 10 fugitives of 2002.
But so no, he was.
No, this was like when he was still on the loose.
Oh, when he's still on the. Okay, I was confused.
So
like he didn't escape jail or anything.
No. So like he was featured like during his manhunt, like when we were all looking for him. He was featured on America's Most Wanted. He wouldn't be featured on America's Most Wanted if he's captured.
That's why I was confused. I was like, this is a very silly show.
No. So, but during his manhunt, when he was featured on an episode of America's Most Wanted, John Walsh said he was in the top 10 fugitives of 2002 at number 3.
Wow.
He was also
a weird top 10.
He was also portrayed on an episode of Obsession, Dark Desires, which aired on in March of 2004, and it was centered on his victim, Colette Dwyer, whose police tips to the police were not completely followed up on. Oh, imagine, we've heard that before.
Yeah.
In addition to the murders of Geraldine DeSoto and Charlotte Pace, there has been DNA that linked Derek Lee Todd Derek Todd Lee, excuse me, I keep saying it backwards, Derek Todd Lee, to 5 more murders. We talked about Randy Meeber, Gina Green, Pam Kinnemore, Tremisha Coleman, and and Carrie Yoder, all of whom were killed between 1998 and 2000.
Like Lee, the problem is Lee is often the middle name when we're talking about nefarious characters.
It is true. Know? It's true.
Yeah. So I think it's understandable you moving it around there.
Initially, when they were looking for Derek Todd Lee, they were looking until they got this the description from Diane Alexander. Initially, they were looking. The FBI profile had that of a white male. So police were like giving DNA tests to thousands of white men in the area. Then they had no leads, and they followed up with a company called DNA Print Genomics, which is not in business anymore, to analyze the DNA that was left at the crime scene, and it said that it was 85% African. So of course they then were able to change course.
Whoops.
Yeah. So they were able to change course. But anyway, I don't know if you remember this. I very much so remember this because I had an incident where I actually called the police. I'll tell you that in a second. Do you remember there was the urban legend that was circulating about the use of a tape of crying babies that was luring people outside?
No, that's terrifying. I'm glad I don't remember that. Now it's going to show up in my dreams.
So it's actually been linked to Derek Todd Lee. It started early in 2003, but it went on for a while. The urban legend was that he was using taped sounds of a crying baby to get women to come out their front door. But Baton Rouge police were quick to deny that information. And they say that the rumor actually came from an episode of Criminal Minds, the episode called Children of the Dark and Tabula Rasa, where the crying baby and Lee were mentioned in both episodes.
So people are like, well, this is clearly a thing because we saw it on the show.
Right. So Snopes actually reported on this urban legend as well, and it has been debunked. But I can remember in the late aughts, early 10s, it was still going around because I can remember hearing what I thought was a baby outside crying, and I was like, "You're not gonna get me!" And I called the police, but it was actually 2 cats mating.
Which also, like, that's fine to call the police on.
And I said, I know you guys are probably going to go back to the station and have a good laugh, but at least it was cats mating and not some real serial killer.
Yeah. So like, did the police show up and like have to be like, hey, we found some cats?
Yeah, they did. They came back to the door and they were like, hey, look, we found the issue. It wasn't the baby. It was, I was like, you can giggle. It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine with that. Go ahead.
Like we got close to the sound and we heard Barry White playing. And
a little Marvin Gaye. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it was definitely some sexy time music. It was business time, as you said.
So, of course, you know that Derek Todd Lee was sentenced to death on January 16th of 2016. He was taken to Lane Memorial Hospital for an emergency treatment. He died of heart disease 5 days later on January 21st of 2016.
Wow. Now, so he died of natural causes even before they could execute.
Yeah.
Oh, so, wow. I don't think that's happened before.
Yeah, it happens. It's happened a couple of times.
In our stories, really?
Yes.
My active listening is bad.
Really?
Shocking.
I had no idea.
No one knew. Who knew?
Now, remember we mentioned that he was married and he had 3 children with his wife. One of his sons was Dedrick Lee. Well, Dedrick Lee in 2018 was arrested on November 21st on account of negligent homicide in the shooting death of a 16-year-old named Valente Brooks. According to reports, Valente Brooks was fatally shot at his residence just 2 days before his birthday. He was a student at East Feliciana High School. Dedrick Lee was released on bond an hour after he was booked, and investigators initially wrote that the shooting occurred as Dedrick Lee and Valente were making a rap video with friends in a bedroom.
Oh, that's not good.
He told investigators that he was handed a gun by Valente. He handed him the gun, and then after showing off the gun that he accidentally pulled the trigger shooting Valente. But Valente had told friends that the gun was not loaded.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So, runs in the family?
I mean, but that feels a little bit more like questionable whether it was, the same level of nefarious doings as his father. I mean, it just sounds like bad actions in a bad moment, whereas he's not stalking and killing people like his dad.
True. But I don't know. I feel like I feel like maybe stay away from that stuff.
Yeah.
Like if your dad has already been like arrested and was in prison for violent things.
Yeah, that's got to be a real weird weight to carry too. Like, his whole life it's been about that. Like everybody knows.
Yeah.
Like you go sit down at lunch and people are like, well, don't sit next to the serial killer's kid.
Yeah. Oh, but anyway, that's actually the last that I can find of that story, that he was arrested, and then I don't know like what happened after that. I can't really find.
I mean I feel like that's like no news is good news in that scenario.
Yeah.
Maybe just went on, lived his life, didn't do any more rap videos with loaded guns.
I hope not.
So, I mean, I can't imagine being the kid of a serial killer and having to, like, growing up is hard, period, but that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, that's a different level. But there you go. That is the story of serial killer Derek.
The Baton Rouge serial killer.
The Baton Rouge serial killer.
I mean, I really enjoy the state of Louisiana, but last couple of weeks with the stories have not made me super excited to go visit.
Oh goodness. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. That's what I got for you. That's the B-side. I don't know why I forgot this line after freaking 99 episodes. That's the B-side, but anyway,
it's okay. I think we're still learning.
Learning curve, yeah. After 99 episodes.
Well, now as we switch over to the A side, and I foreshadowed this a little bit in our opening sort of preamble chit chat. Sometimes there are movies that, for some reason, get lambasted because they didn't make a lot of money. And it's weird because critics are like, hey, sometimes when movies make a lot of money, this wasn't a good movie, but they still made a lot of money. So like, okay, well, it's a success. But if it's an enjoyable movie that doesn't make any money and isn't a critical hit, then they're like, well, this is a complete flop. And there's been this cool thing that's happened over the last couple of years where novels from my youth that were, because I was a voracious reader. We had this book cart that would go from class to class, and it was our library cart because I went to a small school that didn't actually have a library. And the library cart, you could like get books off of the library cart, and you'd have to return them the next week when it came in. And I read every single book on our library cart. Every single one, to the point where like I was out of books at school. I was just like picking up the encyclopedia and reading the encyclopedia, which I did learn a lot. My entire, I went to grade school in the 80s and early 90s, and my sex education was the S encyclopedia. That's how I learned that, and the History Channel. But at some point I was like, I'm out of books. And so I started going to the library with my folks, and my mom loved sort of spy thriller lawyer novels. So like the John Grishams, the Michael Crichton, the Tom Clancy, that whole genre. And so my mom would read a book and it would be lying around, and I'd pick it and read it. And we're reading a lot of the same books, but I'm in 5th, 6th, 7th grade. And I was probably reading books that had some content I probably shouldn't have been reading at those age. And sometimes I would get like ahead of my mom, and I would read the book, and then she'd read it, and she'd like just give me this look, and she'd like get to a scene in the book, and then she'd kind of like, come over and be like, "Did you read this?" I was like, "Oh yeah, it's good, it's good." She's like, "Oh." Also, nothing will ever be as embarrassing, and this is probably something we should save for the Patreon, but we're not going to do it. The most embarrassing and uncomfortable moment of my life is being on a car trip with my mother when I'm an adult and she's an adult and we're driving, and we get an audiobook. And the audiobook is one of the Bourne series, which we did a whole episode on the Bourne series.
Mm-hmm.
But you're listening to an audiobook driving with your mother through Iowa in the middle of nowhere, and there's a romance scene.
Oh.
Everyone's just staring directly ahead. We're like the most uncomfortable experience of my life, where this like random author is attempting to set the scene verbally, and you're like, wow, this is the worst. Like, I would welcome being hit by a car at this point. So just don't do that, kids. Not a great idea. But a lot of these authors' works have been reimagined recently. So we've talked about the Jack Reacher series that has just come out on Amazon Prime, which was really, really good. Mm-hmm. And the Tom Clancy Jack Ryan series has been reimagined. I think was it Prime as well? It might have been Prime as well, yes, with John Krasinski. Yes. And that did a great job taking these long form stories and kind of making it more accessible, because they've tried to do movies for so many times and it's hard. You can't take a book that is 500 pages long and squash it into 2 hours. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my favorite Tom Clancy books, Clear and Present Danger, is the worst movie because they stop the movie 2/3 of the way through the book.
Oh,
they don't even get to the end because the book's too long. And also like that the production was, everyone was hating each other, everyone was fighting, and like Harrison Ford just wanted to be done with it. And the studio was just like, this movie's going on too long, so we're just going to end it. So they end it like 2/3 of the way through the book, and you're like, what the heck? So my goal for the summer, as we've talked about a couple times, is that I'm trying to read kind of read every day. Right now, I've kind of settled into like trying to read a quick read pulp fiction type novel every week. And I've done 5 at this point. I'm on my 5th one, and it's feeling really good. But I was at Walgreens the other day because I had gotten this coupon for Walgreens bucks. Like you buy something and they give you this coupon. It says if you spend 15, you'll get 5. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. You got 33% rebate. I'm going to do that. But I've never gone and done the thing, because you have to like within the next 7 days come back and spend $15. I'm like, okay. So I went in and I was like, I have to spend $15. So I picked up some dog treats and I'm walking around the place. I needed nothing. And I was like, crap, I cannot find it. I picked up some postcards to send to my oldest when they're at camp, but I'm still at like $6. I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. I have to spend 15 to get my free $5. Mm-hmm. And this is how they get you. And so I went over to the book shelf, which used to be way bigger in every store. Now it's like maybe 6 books. And it was like 9 romance novels and one author that I recognized. So I pick up the book and it's Clive Cussler, and for inexplicably named Fast Ice.
Oh my.
But I was like, okay, I know this author because he wrote the Dirk Pitt series, and now he's on to like another hero. This is the Kurt Austin series. And why do like heroes have such ridiculous names? Like Jack Ryan, Kurt Austin, Jack Reacher. It's never like Theodore Bartholomew Smith. It's always just very
because he's
clearly
like doing Jack Reacher's taxes.
That's true. That's right. No one would be like, clearly that guy's name is way too long to be a secret agent or whatnot. And so I pick up the book. I've been reading it. It's enjoyable. It is clearly not the Dirk Pitt series. This is, again, where you've got the author, where it's got his name in big letters, and then it says Clive Cussler and Graham Brown. And Graham Brown wrote the whole book. Clive Cussler sent him 2 paragraphs and said, this is what the book is about. And Graham did the whole thing. But it reminded me of the fact that I have one of my most enjoyable movies that I have on DVD, and there is a very, like, I pared down my DVD collection over the last 10 years, but there are movies that I still keep on DVD because I'm like, I always want this option to watch. There are some movies I have multiple times on DVD, like Sneakers, where I literally have 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
There was a movie from 2005, which was based on Clive Cussler's main character, his first character, Dirk Pitt, starring Matthew McConaughey and Steve Zahn and Penelope Cruz. And I absolutely enjoyed every single moment of it. And I'm like, this is a series. The Dirk Pitt series is a series that needs to come back on like Amazon Prime or Netflix or, Hulu Plus or whatever, because it is so much fun. It's absurd. Like, this current book is about Nazis finding stuff in Antarctica before World War II, and it has something to do with climate change and changing the entire. It's absurd. It makes zero logical sense, but it's a lot of fun. And that same can be said about 2005's Sahara. It was a movie that made 2/3 of its budget back. It was super expensive. It had a lot of production problems. I was shot on location in Morocco and the United Kingdom. Its budget was $160 million. The crew ended up suing the studio. The studio ended up suing the crew. There were like accusations of violating international law.
Oh, wow.
And it only made $119 million worldwide.
Good gracious.
And it is listed as one of the biggest box office failures. But it is such a ridiculous, over-the-top story. And it is like, you can't have Raiders of the Lost Ark and not have decades of these sort of like treasure hunter stories. Like, one of my favorite memes right now about what's going on with the country is that somebody threw up a meme and said the only way that we can fix what's happening with the Supreme Court is for Nicolas Cage to steal the Constitution. And you wouldn't have movies like National Treasure without, the Raiders of the Lost Ark and the old school sort of, treasure hunter movies. And Sahara is in that vein. And you have peak Matthew McConaughey, sort of in his like leading man, just charming as all get out. You've got Penelope Cruz, who is probably one of the most beautiful people on earth at her peak. And then Steve Zahn as this just sort of sidekick guy, which is perfect. And a very young Rainn Wilson from The Office, Dwight, as the other sidekick in the story. And it all works. The story itself is ridiculous. The idea that at the end of the American Civil War, the Confederate soldiers loaded all of their gold into one ironclad ship. And the ironclad ship sailed to Africa, went down a river, and then the river dried up, and that ship was trapped somewhere in the Sahara Desert. Absolutely absurd. But watching Matthew McConaughey and Steve Zahn and Rainn Wilson deal with trying to get there and figure it out, and William H. Macy as their sort of commander who's just annoyed by everything, which is such a good role for him. He just plays that, like, I'm in charge, but also no one's really listening to me, and I'm sort of annoyed about everything. Admiral guy. And it's so well done. And it puts this idea of a grand scale adventure where you're going down rivers and you're fighting off African generals who are trying to start a civil war, and there's this weird rich guy who wants to build this entire solar factory in the middle of nowhere in Africa, but use it to turn coal into diamonds because he's basically a Bond villain. And it's so much fun. But for some reason, everything that is written about this movie is it didn't make money. And I don't get that, because when movies make money, critics still complain about the plot. They still complain that it wasn't a good movie, but they don't get to kind of just punt and say, well, it didn't make money. And for some reason with Sahara, all anyone will ever write about the movie is that it was a box office bomb. It was not successful. And it seems to drive people away from the film, which is silly because it's just a lot of fun. And even Roger Ebert, who on our website, we will have the link to his original analysis and critique of the movie. He says, one wonders not so much what Cussler would have left out, but what else could have possibly gone in. Sahara contains everything that could possibly be included in such a screenplay and more. It's a fire sale at the action movie discount outlet. But everything that he hates about it is what I love about it. It's super over the top. But you don't go to an action movie like, oh, do you think the Nazis really got the Ark of the Covenant? I don't know. But you have a great time, and you have likable characters, and you have fun action scenes. There's an entire like boat chase experience. At one point, they find the ironclad. Spoiler: they find the ironclad, and they have to, after 200 years of it sitting in the Sahara Desert, get it working so they can fire at the bad guy, which is completely absurd, but also exactly what you expect to happen. Mm-hmm. It is so much fun. I mean, Steve Zahn, in my opinion, is historically underused in so many things. He is a great, like, sort of supporting actor. He's the perfect foil for the leading man. Matthew McConaughey is at peak Matthew McConaughey, and I think that honestly he has not gotten to do as many action movies as good, but he's got more, like, he's shown much more range than 2005. Mm-hmm. There's also a wonderful performance by Lenny James, who is a British actor who you may recognize from The Walking Dead. He played Morgan. He was also in Snatch. He plays the evil General Kazim, who is trying to start the Civil War. There's a French zillionaire played by Lambert Wilson, who I've never seen in anything else, who is his sort of sidekick as the two bad guys. And it's fun. And it's okay for a movie to just be fun. You want to throw something on. You want to root for the good guys, hate the bad guys. There's going to be some absurd moments. There's also going to be some laughs. It's fun to see like a really young Rainn Wilson kind of playing Dwight, but an entirely different, like, he's the only character that, like, his character Rudy Gunn is in the whole Dirk Pitt series and also in this new Kurt Austin series. So as I'm reading the book, I'm like, wait a second, that's Rainn Wilson? Because that's who I still remember him as. It's a very strange sort of character, but he plays it very well. It's a decent way to kill a couple hours. It's 2 hours and 4 minutes, could be a little bit long. It is, 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb. People don't like it, but I don't think that anyone gives it the chance they should, because there's so much more to it. But everybody just says, oh, well, that was a bomb. So sometimes you have to not listen to the general perspective of a film, especially when it comes to money, because who cares if it made money or not? It's 2005. We're looking at like almost 20 years ago. Right. This movie came out. Is it enjoyable? Because you're not invested. You're not the one who's getting return on their investment. Is it fun? And the return on your investment for the 2 hours and 4 minutes you watch Sahara, if you want to watch an action movie with likable leads that is absurd and silly and fun and has good bad guys, then it will be profitable for you. So don't listen if people say it was a bomb in the box office, because in my opinion, some movies that bomb at the box office are ones that are eminently rewatchable and enjoyable. So go watch Sahara. It's on Hulu. It's on Prime. I've got it on DVD if you want to borrow it. It is way better than people expect.
All right. Not the A side?
That's the A side.
All right. Well, like we do each week, we tell you where you can find us online, A-side, B-side podcast.square.site, or where else, Adam?
You can go to our website and you'll be able to see all of our links to every streaming service that is out there, whether it's Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can find us on Facebook. We have an Instagram. We are still working on our TikTok. I'm perfecting my dances. I actually have a specific Sahara dance. that I'm working on. Not yet. No, I just do everything outside because I think natural light works better for my skin tone, obviously, because I look less like a dead person, which is great. You can buy us a coffee, which is really helpful because Brooke has to edit all of this stuff together. And I have recently been helping out with another podcast and helping them edit. And it just reminds me how much work Brooke actually has to put in and deal with as I'm trying to edit myself in another podcast where I'm like, oh my gosh, you never shut up, me. That's a lot to edit. So coffee is the least that you could buy her. We got merchandise on our website, whether it's t-shirts, coffee mugs, shower curtains. If you do get something, feel free to send us a picture of you in it, and we will post it on our social medias because that's always really cool. Yeah, it's really cool to see. And we are next week, the first week of July, will be episode 100, and that is really, really cool. And I don't think that I thank you enough, Brooke, for making this work and doing all of the work that you do, but it is something that I am very, very proud of. And even when I just like randomly talk to somebody, they're like, hey, I listened to this episode. Then they ask me a question about something I said, and I have no memory whatsoever. This is all just off the cuff.
You expect Adam to remember something? Remember, right? No active listening, so he doesn't have active memory either.
I'm not even like passively listening. I'm probably not listening. I am a middle-aged white guy. I forgot how to do that like 15 years ago. But it's really cool. You better
remember, because your time is coming, buddy.
I know. It's gonna be scary. It's okay. I'm about like 10 years away from just being able to pretend I have Alzheimer's, so it'll be cool.
Oh my gosh. All right. But, yeah, there you go. Next week, episode 100. Don't forget, we also have a Patreon. And we mentioned it in the very beginning of the episode. It's A-Side B-Side Podcast on Patreon. We've got a couple of behind the scenes or, random chatter, but like what's the biggest lie we ever told is an episode. Mm-hmm. And also getting the VIP treatment till you don't. There's a pretty funny story there. That's on our Patreon. So check that out.
Like, subscribe, share, and like tag us and stuff. Like if you're listening somewhere and you're like, hey, I'm sitting on my rooftop listening to the podcast, I'm going to post about it. Tag us, please. That would be 100%.
Great. 100%. Please do. Please do. All right. Well, I guess there we go. That's episode 99, Adam.
99 episodes.
Do we need, we always joke about our little intro. A-Side. Do we need an outro?
I feel like we probably don't.
Okay.
I mean, because if anyone gets this far into the post script, it's just our moms. So thanks, moms.
Thanks, moms. We love you. And my friend Arlene and Jordan.
Yeah, see. So those 4 people, if y'all want a new like outro music, just let us know. And, Mom, you can just tell me this weekend.
All right. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, brother.